Hello! Hi, my name is Jordan, if we haven't met, and I'm making a quick video on thesis writing for Doctorate of Ministry students at Corban University and talking about our very specific program. And here's the three things I want to do. I want to address how do we get started, how do we make progress, and how do we make progress that moves us towards finishing the Doctorate of Ministry thesis project. This video is primarily intended for the people in the fourth year of the program, but if other years view this video and find it useful, great. I just want to help us all figure out how do we graduate. So let's start with that first question, how do we get started? Well, you're in luck because I spent some time with Dr. G's permission making a roadmap. This is on the Converge page of Corban University under CM 894 Thesis Project Writing, and this is the Doctorate of Ministry Roadmap to Graduation. There's some basic instructions here at the top, some announcements, and some general tools that were made by our librarian Garrett Trott as a way of helping people remember how to use Zotero, do preliminary research, and he's going to be adding to this some other fields as well. But as you can see from the website, here's the first few steps, is that you need to finish all year 3 coursework and get a TP proposal officially accepted by Dr. G. That's where this journey begins, is making sure all year 3 stuff is done and making sure you have a TP proposal that's been officially accepted. Officially accepted, by the way, is a pretty informal process. It means that you've turned in one and that he's graded and liked. That's it. Now, I know that some of the students out there have had pretty unfortunate situations happen to either the place of their ministry or family, or in some ways, the project they were conceiving and working towards, everything has changed. This happened to me. As some of you might recall, I was doing house church ministry, and I was considering doing a project in dialogical preaching. And that was my project year 1 and into year 2. But in year 2, my wife and I had to step out of ministry, which means I lost my thesis project idea. This will happen for some of you. And so if you have a thesis project idea that maybe realize has to change because you've changed your place of ministry or some other events have come up, then all you need to do is you need to go back to those 10 questions. The 10 questions, you remember them: problem of ministry, researchable questions, hypothesis, research question. The 10 questions assignment is meant to get you right up to a pre-proposal for Dr. G. So if you haven't done that, that's where you need to be. I'm assuming most of my audience knows these 2 things and is probably a touch past that. So I have some laws of thesis chapter writing that come from Dr. G, and the only one I'm going to read to you is to make chapter outlines. This is so important that the first step is that you're making outlines. Why? Because you don't want to write 15 pages in a direction before Dr. G says, I don't like the direction. So make outlines first. And what you're going to see down the page a little bit, if I could get past this, is that you have an important decision to make. Where to begin the journey. Most of you will start with writing chapters 2 or 3. And remember, writing means outlines. Yes, do an outline. And then working on rough drafts. Chapter 2, if you might remember, is the theology or biblical foundations chapter. And chapter 3 is the precedent research. Either one of those are good places to start, but you want to start outlining, getting resources together, and maybe after outlines have been seen by Dr. G, you're going to start working on rough drafts. Now, there might be some people out there who have an unusual situation. An unusual situation might mean that you have a very clear project, you know how you're going to measure it, you know exactly what you're going to do, and you've talked to Dr. G about it at length, and he knows, he loves it, and you have some precedent research done, meaning you've gathered some resources on the topic, and you already know what you're going to do for chapter 2 and the biblical foundations. Your project is clear beginning to end. Well, in that case, some of you might find it advantageous to start planning and executing the thesis project first. Admittedly, this is an unusual situation, but maybe your project is going to take more than a year. Or maybe there is, for whatever reason, a ripe moment to begin your thesis project now. Maybe the opportunity has become available and you're ready to jump on it. Either way, this is where some people may start, and may I stress this, only with the approval of Dr. G. because you don't want to start a project that he didn't know about. And you don't want to start a project when you haven't done any research, because maybe after your research, you would have done your project differently. So this is an unusual circumstance, but it is worth mentioning in case your situation warrants it. Talk to Dr. G. But my question, remember, was how do I get started? Well, here's the roadmap. If you've done year 1 work, if you finished year 3 work, you have your TP proposal close, and you have it completed and done, then this is the section that you want to pay attention to. If you did up here, by the way, choose that the road for me is starting writing chapters 2 or 3, well, how do I do that? Well, what I have here is here's an outline and chapter description from Dr. G and his homeschooling Doctorate of Ministry paper. You can click on that and get an outline to see how did he outline. But I've also included here his chapter 2, the whole chapter 2 from his dissertation, one from J. Mosser, who we did assignments with, but then I included the whole dissertation by Nathaniel Waldock, another person who is part of the Corban ministry. He received a Doctorate of Ministry from Corban as well. And there's also one by Victor, who some of us actually met, and his was on the topic of prayer. But here's what I envisioned for you. That you, if you would be like me, you would be working on something, and right now I'm working on chapter 6. Chapter 6, not meaning that I'm done. I'm working on them out of order. That's a long story. But what I have here from my paper is the remaining parts of my outline of chapter 6, because you do an outline first. And so what I then do, if you scroll up, is I'm actively writing one of these points from my outline. And while I'm doing that, I have open in other screens Dr. G's homeschooling dissertation, J. Mosser's one on pastoral shepherding, Nathaniel's on his hermeneutics, and Victor's on prayer. And what I'm doing is I'm working on this part, conclusions from the project. And here's his conclusion 1, and I see how he writes it. I'm following how he writes his point. And then I'm going to see how Nathaniel does his first conclusion. And I'm doing the same thing with Jay. And I'm doing the same thing with Dr. G. And together, this is helping me figure out what I should be doing for my paper, okay? And that's how I think this process should work. Is that if you have a thesis project that's been accepted, and you're starting to write these chapters, then you're going to be using this roadmap to help you self-select what do you want to work on and how do you finish. And if you noted, there's a place for you actually to submit your outline first, and there's a place for you to submit your rough drafts. But like many people, your problem is probably not going to be not knowing what to do, but finding time and motivation and a strategy to get things done. And what I just want to share with you is there's a lot of resources beyond myself on these topics. This is how to achieve your most ambitious goals. And what this man is going to tell you in this video is that everything is about small marginal adjustments. Changes in your schedule where you free up 20 and 30 minutes. And he uses this to achieve his dreams, and you can watch that if you're interested. The address is up here, or the title if you're curious. But hey, here's another one. This is somebody who wrote their dissertation in 20 minutes a day. From watching the video, I think this person is probably at a master's level, certainly not a doctoral level, and they finished theirs pretty quickly. I think that it would probably take a longer amount of time to do a Doctorate of Ministry, but I think the principle of daily chipping away at it is worth noting. There are other good videos about how to make time or find time. I particularly like this one, How to Multiply Your Time by maybe Rory Vaden. And essentially what he does is he looks at your schedule and says, what tasks can you eliminate? Because they're just not important. Which ones can you automate? Can you think of a process, a way of taking them off your schedule and getting them done? And which ones can you delegate? And I think for those of us in ministry, the delegate is so important because there's a lot of stuff that we could delegate and we just don't. But if you can start giving away some of the tasks in this maybe year-long period that usually you do to somebody else, it's going to take some time to train somebody. But once that person is trained, you have freed up time that will continue to help you finish. So those are some strategies there. But what I want to do is to, I guess, speak more personally to you guys. And something that I think that you probably should do is I think that you should begin this thesis project session with a 2-hour planning time. I'll show you what I did with my 2-hour planning time. As I looked at my schedule for the summer and maybe even and actually into the fall, and I thought through, where can I find time for thesis writing? Where can I find it? And as you can see, Monday through Friday, I find that time in the morning at 3, 4, 5, and 6 a.m. And then you can see some of the other things in there, that there's classes that I teach online early in the morning. The kids get up, which really throws a monkey wrench. But basically, I try to find that time daily in the morning, Monday through Friday. And if I fail to do that, you can see Saturday and Sunday, that's where I'll make that time up. I don't want to do that, but that's where the time is for me. And so here's what I'm talking about. On my schedule for Monday, you can see that 3 to 4 a.m. says me. And that's not about me. That's about time spent with Jesus Christ. I'm a strong believer that if you put Christ first, he gives you, I don't know, the emotional strength or spiritual fortitude to kind of continue. I've just found that to be true in my life. I don't make this video to prove that, but I do think if you're going to get up early, spend your first half an hour with Christ, then get into work. It's very easy to cut out that half an hour, reduce it to 5 minutes, but my personal opinion is that's where I get life and joy, which sets me up to do some good writing work. But in your own life, you want to find, how do you make time? I already mentioned some videos that do some good thinking and processing on that, but you need a rhythmic plan that sets the agenda of how you're going to write. Here's my current goal tracker that I keep out for my wife to see. She's my accountability partner. And as you can see, my goal is to write 10 pages a week. How am I going to write 10 pages a week? Well, I guess it's because I'm taking Monday through Friday, an hour and a half to 2 hours a day, which is basically getting a page an hour. Depending on what chapter I'm in, that's easy or hard. You can see that my schedule involving dates puts chapter 3 and 2, the hardest chapters, at the end, but I can write chapters 4, 5, and 6 because I've already done my thesis project. The project part is done. What I need to do is now write. And my goal is to write 10 pages a week. And this is my current page count, not including appendices. But I put this out, this is posted because I want the world to know, not that I'm doing great, but I want someone to hold me accountable. And so this is what I've chosen to do. And I do this with my wife so that she knows that it's progressing, right? But you need to find rhythmic time. For me, it's mornings. For you, it might be evenings. Others of you might prefer long chunk time. I think Matthias and Carl, and I'm making this video in June of 2019, they've taken time to be at Corban University to study. You can do it however you want, but you need to find time and you need to plan to have time. I think another important thing for you is in answering the question, how do we make progress, is setting up rewards. That when you finish a chapter, that when you get all 6 outlines done, that you celebrate that in a small way for you or with somebody else. I think that builds momentum. I think it's important to have backup plans for when life happens. What will you do then? If your whole plan rests on you getting up early like mine does, it's important to have backup plans because some nights are late nights, some nights you don't sleep well, and when the alarm goes off at 3 a.m., you don't get out of bed. But you have a backup plan, it's okay. So how do you make progress? I think that you have to have a plan that you're committed to. It's got to include spaces for you to start working, but maybe the first step is for you to have a strategic planning session that involves maybe staff. It might even involve your spouse, about you trying to say, these are the spaces I'm trying to protect. Help me protect them. Be on my team. If I'm up at 9 o'clock, my wife's saying, go to bed. You have to get up to write. Go to bed. I want to see this page count grow. Go to bed. I want you to finish. You want people in your life involved. And then how do I finish? Grace of God, brothers. So I hope this video helps you get started, helps you think of some ideas. Hopefully there was something useful. I want to see all of you guys finish. And something you should know is that if you want help with your 10 questions, you want some thesis thinking or project design, feel free to email me, jnewton@corban.edu. I'm kind of growing into a role of helping people with their thesis projects. Thank you guys so much for watching this video all the way to the end. Hope it helps. Take care.